Welcome to the All Things Energy podcast. We are here to power up your understanding of the energy industry with electrifying topics and some stellar guests. And joining me today is Chris Lauer, partner, founder of Method Construction Management. Chris, thank you for joining me.
Of course. I love that intro.
I know.
Thanks for having me.
I know. Electrifying topics is what we're going to hit today. No, this is a fun topic for me. Construction, development, all the stuff you've lived in, but I always like to kind of rewind the clock a little bit. I think we met through some family members, maybe cousin family members of yours, New Mexico cousins.
Yeah.
I think Isaac and Jessica.
Mm-hmm.
Is that your connection?
Yes, those are family members.
Okay. I'm not sure if he's owning them or disowning. No, I'm kidding.
No, I take full ownership. It's just moments like that really make you realize how small the world is.
I know. That's right.
A state apart, and move back to Lubbock after being gone for several years. And next thing I know, I'm buying a house that, my cousin lived in, and connected the dots through church and all of the other things. So
I've said this a lot, and I hope I keep saying it because it's true to me. And that is, I love business. I love stirring up stuff. I love entrepreneur. I love looking at changes in industry. But really at my core, and I know you share this, is it's the people and the relationships and the rubbing shoulders together and the learning, the growing and laughing and crying. That's really where I say the richness of life.
Oh,
is.
Yeah. Well, that's where the energy comes from.
Yes, exactly.
You've only got so much energy on your own. But pair that up with the right people, through conversation, through friendship, through breaking bread. And it's pretty amazing what you can accomplish when you, open it up to the community.
And I say this, all of that you've described pales in comparison to the temporary, it's nice to accumulate some stuff and your bank account gets a little bigger and that's nice. Allows you to do some things. But it's just like when you're really reflecting on what brings just real joy and fulfillment and gratitude, it ain't the stuff.
Sure.
So
means nothing if you don't have someone to share
That's right.
with,
Right. So I like to kind of ask the origin questions for kind of what you're doing today and kind of how you got there. So how did the construction industry get into your life many, many moons ago?
Yeah, good question. I was a typical college kid who had no idea what he wanted to do with his life and bounced around with degrees. Ended up getting a banking job shortly after graduating college and quickly realizing that wasn't for me. And so really had a young family at the time and was just looking for any open doors, and one thing led to another. And next thing I knew, I was working for a small general contractor in New Mexico and fell in love with it. I mean, no 2 days are the same. You get to see the fruits of your labor, which, not all professions you get that luxury. And at the end of the day, you get to help out some people bring their dreams to life. And so for me, it just felt like this is a passion. This is what I want to do. And I've been blessed and fortunate to continue that path for the past 15, 20 years to where I'm at now.
And you came from New Mexico, Albuquerque-ish area into Lubbock to kind of help your company expand their footprint, projects they were working.
Yeah, exactly. So the contractor I was working for in New Mexico, they're a larger contractor there. They do schools, a lot of municipal work, and they saw what everyone else sees in Texas and the opportunity. And so we came up with the crazy idea to branch out to West Texas. I'd graduated from tech, so I had some familiarity with the area, and they were willing to take a gamble on me. So shipped myself and the family out here to see what we could dig up. And next thing we knew, we had a really successful operation building hospitals and schools and a number of other things throughout West Texas. And it was a very positive experience. Unfortunately, it was probably just one of those things of right place, wrong time.
Yep.
We grew a little bit faster than the company was ready to support. an out of state operation, and just a number of different things that were going on in life kind of led to me stepping away from that chapter and kind of, just figuring out my path from there in terms of what I wanted to do. And here I am today. So.
Well, I remember very clearly we've had, several conversations, but a couple of them, one specifically was sitting at a lunch top, I think at a local restaurant. And you and I kind of really, man, do I make the jump into my own thing?
Mm-hmm.
And we talked at length about, the risk, the rewards, the opportunities, the highs, the low. I mean, all of that. And I could just kind of see this in the back of your eye of like, oh man, every part of me wants to do it, but like every jump, it's scary. It's uncertain.
Very.
It's unproven. You've got family, you've got stuff. So I'll kind of ask the question, what were the elements, the ingredients, the forces that maybe pushed you into that, uncertain, scary, but venture to really launch your own thing, you and Zach?
Sure. So I believe it was Jim Carrey that is quoted as saying, if you can fail at what you don't want to do, then why not risk failing at something you do want to do?
Ooh, I haven't heard that quote. Ladies and
And
gentlemen, I like that.
yeah, and so I think that was kind of that light bulb moment. Is, I had gone through so many different positions and companies and risen the ladder and served in a number of different roles, but at the end of the day, none of those brought me to where I wanted to be.
Yeah.
So I felt, for me, where I was at in life, that if I'm going to make this move, uh, I mean, I kind of felt now or never.
Yeah.
Because it's never easy to make that decision, but I feel like the older you get, the farther along you get in life, the more you've kind of built up comforts around
Yes.
yourself.
Yep.
You've got a certain lifestyle, your kids have certain expectations, and your wife, your family, and so I just feel like there's a little bit of added pressure to make these type of decisions later on in life. But at the end of the day, yeah, it was something that I knew I was passionate about. I think one of the biggest things that most entrepreneurs have to answer before becoming entrepreneurs is, how much faith do you have in yourself?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because what I'm doing now is not something I haven't done before. I've done it 2 or 3 times before,
Yep.
but for other people.
Yep.
And so asking me to go do it for someone else, it's like, sure, I got this. But when you're asking to do it for yourself, for whatever reason, there's that question mark that goes off that says, well, what makes you think you can do it for you? So,
I have this phrase that I share a lot with my sales teams into my organizations. And I've probably said it on this podcast. I hope I say it again because it really has been a paradigm shift for me. And I love encouraging other people with it. And it's this idea of like everything in life has an element of hard to it.
mhm,
There maybe are some easy things in life, but I would argue a lot of life is just, it's not easy. You have to wake up every day. You have to go do what you're going to do. You don't love everything you get to do. There's risk in what you do. And it can be hard. It can be challenging.
sure.
And I love this phrase of, but we get to choose our hard.
Yes, I love it.
Choose your hard.
Yeah.
And you referenced it in the quote by Jim Carrey. Sometimes as an entrepreneur, I'm simply shifting my perspective to go, I don't mind going hard. I don't mind working hard. I don't mind risking, but I'm going to choose something that if this can materialize in some ways that I believe and hope it can,
Mhm,
and the reward and the fruit from choosing this hard, they're both hard,
yeah,
but the reward over here, holy cow, could be really exciting. And
absolutely.
it's not given.
Mhm,
Nothing's given. And I just love this waking up every day. What's the hard I'm going to choose?
mhm,
Choose hard in the way my relationships. It's kind of like I can go on the relationship tangent and go, I have to choose to make some hard, die to myself decisions in my marriage relationships. I
Yeah.
want to be right. I am right, honey. I am right a lot of times. Hope you're not listening to this. But I have to choose the hard side of it because I want the fruit
Sure.
that comes from working together. So choose hard.
I love it. I love it. And I think we've all experienced both levels of hard. And you're right. At some point you realize there's no easy. There's no smooth path that you just decide. But at the end of the day, I think it really just comes from your purpose.
Yeah.
You
Yep.
know, what do you want your future to look like? What do you want your kids' future to look like? And to your point, am I going to put in the hard work to get what I want, or am I going to continue struggling doing the things that I know I don't want to do?
Yep.
So,
So I love to introduce a little bit to the audience and to our listeners and to people kind of what all it is you get to do, and specifically with Method. I mean, you guys launched this thing 1 to 2 years ago. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your partner, Method.
sure.
What is it you guys are honed in on, and kind of what are things looking like towards the future?
Yeah. So when Zach and I got together, we both like-minded, both grew up in the commercial construction industry, and have seen year over year how much this city and surrounding areas continues to grow. Lubbock does have a shortage of talent, but it's not slowing things down in terms of development. And we saw what we like to call kind of a gap in the market. You've got some large commercial contractors who will build the schools and the police headquarters and different projects of that nature. Um, and then you've got a handful of smaller contractors, et cetera. But we realized that you know well, let me back up a little bit. So construction has evolved quite a bit.
Yeah.
So in the past, it was very much low bid, finger pointing. Everyone just was kind of holding their breath until the job finished, and then everyone parted their ways. And it just, wasn't really a positive experience for anyone. Construction started to evolve into more of a collaborative partnership mindset, and some new avenues of delivering commercial construction became popular, and I feel like things started to get a lot better in terms of teaming and working together to find solutions, because every project is going to have problems.
Yep.
It's really just a matter of how you deal with them. And so I feel like it was evolving and getting to a good spot. Well, then COVID hits.
Yeah.
And the one thing that comes out of uncertainty is chaos. And so I think the construction industry, specifically commercial construction, kind of took a few steps back, in the sense that commercial contractors were having a hard time controlling the things that were so easy to control in the past, in
Yeah.
terms of prices or lead times, or just quality, et cetera, because of all of the aftermath of COVID. And it seems like the process just wasn't fun anymore. Everyone was having to deliver bad news after bad news. People were getting frustrated with the process. And so now here we are, coming out of it a few years. Things are getting a little bit better, but Zach and I still remember when, partnership was the mentality, and taking care of the customer, and really just excelling at the process and the management of it, so that everyone does enjoy. And so that's what Zach and I feel like we bring to the table. We're not going to solve all of the construction bottlenecks in West Texas, but if we can help a handful of clients each year have a positive, better experience when building, and two, talking that medium to smaller size project range, well, to some people, their 3 million or $5 million project may be the biggest thing they
Yep.
do in
That's
their
right.
entire career, or um, and so for them, it's a very important undertaking. It's scary, it's risky, etc. Well, given the fact that there's so much going on in this market, and you have a lot of the big names who are tied up on these large or mega projects, those smaller projects oftentimes don't get the attention they deserve, or maybe they'll get the green staff. So you may be paying for the big name, but at the end of the day, your project's only going to go as smooth as the people
Yep.
actually
Yep.
boots on the ground running it. And so that's what Zach and I are looking to do. We're looking to go out there and help. We can help. um, Community is a big proponent of what we do. Zach and I have always had a passion for nonprofits, and we've had um, the honor of working with several throughout the community and helping them bring some of their projects to life. So doing projects with meaning, projects with purpose, helping people out that, we can genuinely make an impact for, that's that's our goal.
Well, and you referenced it, and I kind of imagine, whenever developers, board of directors, whoever it is that's leading the project on behalf of their organization, their company, nonprofit, whoever it is,
Mhm.
you're always kind of cringing when you're going into these GC type meetings, bidding meetings. It's like you put on your armor and you just know it's just going to be kind of rough.
Sure.
And so I'm just kind of sitting here imagining, because I know you and know Zach a little bit, of just how all of a sudden, just little by little, clients can kind of go like, oh, so we actually can talk amicably about this and we can troubleshoot. And I can just imagine knowing how human nature is, how receptive people are
Sure.
to the shift of me versus you, kind of harsh.
Yeah.
I'm better, I know better than anyone else. So it's my way. It's just that sometimes comes off,
Of
unfortunately.
course. Yeah.
You've seen it, you've been around it. So,
No, and we get that, and contractors can have this perception of being rough around the edges, or just in it to cut corners and make the most profit, or change order after change order, etc. But at the end of the day, our goal is to walk away with a reference.
that's
We
great.
want to impact people for the better, and we want, at the end of the day, for when people to talk about our company, that they talk about it in a positive light. So again, construction is difficult. Construction's hard. Definitely not saying that we have everything figured out, but at the end of the day, having a team that cares and that listens and that has the same intentions you do makes all the difference in the
Yep.
world.
No, it's huge. I love it. Well, I'm going to kind of pivot a little bit and kind of to our all things energy conversation, because I think that's one reason why this industry fascinates me, is because it doesn't matter what you do. You got to turn the lights on. You got to get
Mhm.
the equipment running. The AC's got to work and all of that, pulls on the energy.
Oh yeah.
And so I'm kind of curious. Energy's not the top of the mind awareness. At the same token, do you see the topic of energy efficiency, energy savings? Certainly, some industries are, pushing hard on the renewable. I'm just kind of curious, big picture, how much is the conversation around energy coming into projects, maybe more or less than you've seen in years past?
Sure. So I mean, the short of it is energy's a big part of it, but it all depends on the focus.
Yeah,
So you can go as extreme as looking for like a lead certification on a building,
sure.
where you're implementing every best practice for energy savings and air quality control and different things of that nature, which is really rooted in a lot of positive change and positive influence for a building, where I think a lot of people or developers, or just the community in general, has probably struggled, is balancing the cost
Yeah.
with the benefit.
Yep.
Because to do things like get a lead certification, or to purchase the highest and most efficient equipment and things of that nature, well, you're going to spend more.
Yeah.
It's going to be a costlier build, et cetera. And so that struggle, I don't think it's going away, but obviously as time goes on, and a lot of these materials like LED lighting and mechanical equipment and things of that nature tend well, tend to a certain extent come
Yep.
down in price from what they used to be, or at least from when they came on the market. That's one thing that helps, but I think really the only thing that's truly going to move the needle is education.
Yeah.
Being able to have that educated discussion on the front end in terms of best value. So
Yes.
if you spend X dollars up front, you will reap X dollars on the back
That's right.
end, for X number of years, or for the life of the building. And that conversation, I don't think, is being had enough. I think And in Texas, Texas is kind of its own animal in terms of adopting some of these more green alternatives. But yeah, I just truthfully don't think that conversation is being had enough on the front end, because there are benefits. I mean, it's the right thing to do if someone is looking to, make a long term play. The numbers always work out, but it's really having that
Yep.
conversation and
Well,
helping them see the numbers.
costs across the board have gone up. All right. There's no denying that. There's no ignoring that. There's no running away from that. It's in front of you.
Oh
And
yeah,
so, I think as a former CPA, as a decision maker myself, I'm looking at stuff and just going, everything's across the board. Can I justify a 5, 10, 20% increase in these efficiency improvements, cost increases to have something that may drive some of that change? The messaging may be important for my organization to say we're doing this. It may not be important for my organization.
sure.
I may be driven by we've got to be a really good steward of the dollars. So 100%. I think that is the challenge in the decision making boardrooms, CEOs, CFOs. And I'll tell you I'm going to kind of jump into a little bit of a case study where our company is, I wouldn't really say pivoting, but really trying to introduce now what I think is like, how do we as a company, understanding that energy is a part of every project's analysis, how do I introduce maybe a solution for the developer, for the builder, the contractor, the client, that's almost a no cost solution that really drives impact, savings. And if you want messaging like, hey, look what we're doing, goodbye,
Sure.
Earth or whatever it may be. And I'll tell you, Chris, batteries are dramatically changing the energy landscape. A couple years ago, we thought, solar on rooftops would be kind of the change. And in literally 2 years, the value of solar in the Texas marketplace has dropped because there's been so much that's flooded the marketplace.
Sure.
But the uniqueness of the battery asset has really turned opportunities for companies and for what we do. And I'll kind of just give you an example. Um, Imagine you're kind of pitching a project to, a developer group, a builder group organization. And what I like to say is, as the contractor, you can introduce energy efficient solutions like, hey, what if you had some free backup batteries on site? Doesn't take up much of a footprint. We work with energy groups now that will pay for that whole cost to install batteries. There's no cost to you, the customer. You get access to the battery in case there's ever grid failure. I mean, knock on wood, hope there's never grid failure, but dear God, it might happen.
Hmm.
If you're in Houston, it's gonna happen.
Sure.
So you get access to free backup power. There's no CapEx cost to you whatsoever. And because this battery serves such a tremendous tool in the energy grid balancing world, the energy providers are going to share the profit, the revenue, the savings this battery generates with you by driving down your total cost of energy by 5, 10, 15%. And they're going to write you a check so they can kind of site license that space.
Sure.
And in right there, and literally, this is just kind of a new example of what we're rolling out just in the last 3 weeks. My brain with developers, contractors is like, man, you can make your bid more attractive than someone else's with the proposal like that. If you're a developer, Graco developer, Wheelhouse developer of a shopping center, and you're trying to attract tenants, you can attract tenants going, hey, I'm going to give you a free backup battery. I'm going to give you a lower cost of energy, no cost to you whatsoever. Would that bother you if we did that? Sign a lease here for me.
So the thing that I love about this is it just reinforces the importance of collaboration.
Yes.
All too often people try to take the shortest and quickest path to something, and development and construction is no different. A lot of times people will just hire an architect, put something out for bid, try to get it built as quick as they can, and then deal with all the other things after the
That's right.
fact.
That's right.
Which, for some people, maybe that's their level of comfort, but for the majority of people, having a team put together early on that's going to help you understand your options, work through challenges before you ever break ground. run the numbers on, like you said, life cycle costs or the cost to maintain the building and things of that nature, um, the saving, it will always pay for itself,
That's
and
right.
more often than not, multiple times over. I think there's just a mentality that the more people you involve, the more expensive it's going to be, or maybe the more cost you're going to absorb up front, or whatever the reason is. But right now, with prices going up, construction is not getting easier.
No.
Development is not getting easier. And, when you introduce the energy landscape, that's something that probably changes even faster than our material pricing
Yeah, that's right.
does. So I can't stress enough how important it is what you're alluding to in terms of collaboration. So if people are thinking of developing, if you have an idea, put the team together early, because you don't know what you don't know. And you will always end up happier with a better project on the tail end when you take that time to bring in the right people, to collaborate and sit down and let everyone who's an expert in their own field
That's right.
bring the information that's relevant to the table, versus someone just knocking on your door saying you need solar without having any
That's
idea,
right.
what your end goal is. So collaboration could not be more important in development and construction.
And it's a little bit unfortunate that we're in a society that um, so many of us, especially leaders that are leading organizations, developments, budgets, they're the key decision makers. The margin of time that they have to allocate is shrinking so much.
Sure.
They're pulled in so many directions that I know for them, often it's like, oh my gosh, the thought of another meeting, the thought of collaboration, it's like they don't quite, I think it's an education piece that you alluded to. They don't quite understand that by incorporating a little more strategic
Hmm.
collaboration actually will create more margin in your life. You need margin and time. Let me help give you that margin. And I almost stressed, I was like, I know this feels like this is another add-on to it. And I get that. But I think what I hope you see at the end of this conversation is I'm going to actually create more margin, time, energy, space, financing, savings, et cetera.
Choose your hard.
Yeah,
Choose your
that's
hard.
it. That's it.
So if you're going to take the easy road up front, you'll have a difficult time on the back end.
Yep.
If you take a little bit more time up front, which I say choose your hard, the collaboration does not need to be difficult.
No,
But you're right, it probably will take a little bit more time, will take a little bit more decision making, etc. Um, but you'll reap the benefits
that's
on
right.
the end, which is when everyone wants to. Everyone wants to, when they're done with the project, to be able to sit back and enjoy the work of their hands, not at the end of the project feel like it's just getting started.
That's right.
So,
No, that's good. I love it. Collaboration. Try to live in that world, and we can all add value to each other, and hopefully it's not one plus one, but a lot of multiplication of three times three.
yeah,
So, okay, this is kind of our lightning speed round. Just a couple quick questions. First thing that comes to your brain. There's not a right or wrong answer. This is just kind of quick speed lightning stuff.
shoot.
Um, maybe the biggest myth in green building.
Well, we alluded to it earlier, but that it has to be expensive.
Yeah.
It doesn't. If you make the right decisions, it doesn't need to cost anymore.
Yep. Energy efficient construction. Is it a niche, or do you feel like it's becoming more mainstream?
Um, it's being adopted.
Yeah.
I would say the majority of designs that are coming out have some sort of energy efficiency in them. Even the city, when you go through the permitting process, will look for energy reports related to what you've designed for your
Yeah.
building. So it's definitely being adopted, but to what extent is the
Do
question.
you feel like, to your point, the education piece, do you feel like clients are leading that additional adoption? Are the architects, the designers, the engineers?
Um, I would say that's geographically based.
Yep.
If you go to larger metropolitan areas where you deal with more corporate policies and things of that nature, you probably get a fair mix of end user driven versus design driven. When you're in a smaller market like West Texas, the energy adoption you'll see will likely be whatever the design
Yeah.
team chooses to
Yeah.
introduce.
Because a lot of the consumers, even on the commercial side, it's just not top of the mind, not something that they've been introduced to.
Hmm.
I think that's one reason why I'm somewhat passionate, newly passionate. Right, this hasn't been my industry for 25 years,
Sure.
but newly passionate to go. This really can be a plus value without heavy weight, sometimes no cost, but
Hmm.
it's educating.
Yep.
So, energy efficient materials, affordable or almost always premium?
Uh, don't mean to sound redundant, but I think just like the previous question, it doesn't have to be.
Yep.
There's a lot of options right now.
Yep. And I feel like this is newer in the subject, so you may not see a lot of this, but it's something we're touching a little more so of that battery storage behind the meter connected to the facility storage. Is that something that you're hearing more conversations around, or do you feel like it's like in its infancy stages in your conversations with clients and projects?
Well, I would say the conversation probably ticked up some from the utility tragedy we
Yep.
had a
Yep.
few years back. So I hate to say it, but a lot of times things do come out of
Oh
of
yeah.
of tragedy or chaos, or whatever term you want to use. So the battery piece, I would say, has gotten more attention since then. Now, on the energy efficiency side, and also some of the payback and some of the uh, we'll say non-emergency benefits, I think that is still unknown to a majority of people out
Yep.
there.
Yeah, I'm literally creating. I'm trying to dumb things down because I've just learned don't overcomplicate it. Don't act like you're some
Sure.
brilliant scientist. It's going to go over someone's head and they're going to move on to the next thing. But it's almost like, hey, Mr. Customer, if we could literally write you a check for a few $1,000s a year to site license and just put this on your location, we'll write you a check plus lower your cost of energy. Is that worth exploring? And you kind of get this puzzled look of like, you're going to pay me for energy? Yeah, yeah. What's the catch?
Sure. Yeah.
What's the catch? Well, the catch is the state of Texas is desperate for energy, and we're finding these battery solutions solve that
Right.
in a financially beneficial way, and you get to benefit from it.
Love it.
So, last question, and this kind of takes us a little bit full circle back. If you were to talk to your younger 20 something self, knowing the journey that you're going to be going through and the construction side, leadership, what would be some advice you'd give your younger 20 something self? Maybe someone in their 20s who's starting to navigate a career, maybe even towards the construction development management side of things.
Yeah. Well, there's so many different answers I could give, but the one that comes to mind is live in the moment.
That's good.
When you're in those early years of starting your career, or maybe starting a family, wherever life has you. At least for me, it was very hard to be present today
Yeah.
because I was always thinking two steps ahead. What do I need to do next to advance in my career? What do I need to do next to provide for my family, or to give them the life as a dad you want to give them, to make the people around you proud. And while those things are good and rooted in good intention, when you reflect, you realize how many days, weeks, months, years just flew by
Yeah.
because you were always looking for what's next.
Yeah. Live in the present. Boy, that's good. I even had this thought this morning of like, all right, every room I walk into, every conversation I have, how do I be really present? Because I got a long list of to-dos like we all do.
Hmm.
And that to-do sometimes suck you into the next thing when
Oh
right in
yeah.
front of you
Hmm.
is a person, a conversation, a moment that who knows what's held in that time.
Well, I say that would be my advice to my younger self, but I'm still giving
It's a journey
me
we're
a
all
daily
on.
dose.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, man, Chris, we could chat for a long time. I love this topic. I love these conversations. Thank
Yeah.
you so much for joining us.
No, loved it. Thank you.
Yep, absolutely. Well, thank you all for joining us another episode of the All Things Energy podcast. And of course, if you want to check out Chris Lauer website connection, what would you say?
methodcm.com.
methodcm.com. And of course, for Rise Energy, it's getriseenergy.com, our Instagram at getriseenergy, YouTube. Check us out. We'd love for you to serve you or your projects. You want some free batteries or come site survey? Let us know. Until then, have a great one.